Let's advance the discussion, because in studio with me now, I've got Mpumzi Maqungo. He is the National Treasurer at the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa. You listened to the conversation. You had me trying to interrogate the employers about what we need to make sure that the collective bargaining process is fixed. From the union side, what's missing?
We think that our experience, especially if I may use the simple example, the recent incident that took place. In that plant, Mercedes-Benz, for an example, we had an experience where we've got a collective agreement, which we signed with the employers since from 2010 up until now. All what we expect as NUMSA and workers in general in the automotive is that all employers are expected to follow what has been agreed upon. And in this instance, there was the conditions of employment that were changed unilaterally.
Tell me about it. What was it?
What happened is that as a union, we put demands this year, which those demands are not covered by the collective agreement, which it allows the agreement. If you've got demands that you want to place to the employer which are not covered by the collective agreement, you can place them at plant level. In this instance, workers in Daimler Chrysler took a decision after a hardship. They put a demand, we put a demand that says we want, the company must provide transport allowance. The second demand that we placed is that we want the company to do away with the continuous outsourcing of work. What does that mean? Is that in the 2010 negotiations, we agreed in the auto sector, there will be no labor brokers' existence in the auto sector. Daimler Chrysler management, gradually and quietly, they outsource work. As they outsource that work, other companies that are not on the scope of the automotive do that particular work. To us, it's an undermining process that the management of Daimler Chrysler. Secondly, in recent strike that took place in Toyota, and last year, and up until this year, is that we agreed on a wage agreement in 2010 with employers. We said, for an example, workers must get 10% across the board. That was agreed after a 3-week strike. But later, same year, management of Toyota, Tapelo, management of Toyota implemented unilaterally a 3 rand 22 cents on top of what was agreed to a certain portion of workers. That created instability in that particular plant. And we believe that if employers want to take very serious and want stability, what we've agreed upon at national level, it must be just adhered.
I wish I'd allowed you to ask him a question, because I think that would have given us a bigger story. But I just wanted to come back quickly to the issue of the collective bargaining process. So from your side, you guys, you're saying there's nothing wrong with the system as it stands now. You're happy with it and you'd rather it stays as it is.
Yes, we think that it makes stability for everybody. For an example, you can imagine, currently in the automotive, we've got 7 auto companies in the country. So you can imagine if each and every plant would have negotiated individually. Now, what we agreed nationally as NUMSA, all sectors of NUMSA, it makes things much more better for us as workers and also for employers, because you will have a consolidated sector run by the very same trade union, which is in this instance NUMSA vis-a-vis the Employers Association. And both parties participate constructively, not only on conditions of employment. We engage with the Department of Trade and Industry. We engage the current APTP, which is an incentive that the employers are getting. It is a product of a policy discussion with NUMSA and versus government and including employers. So we think that the collective bargaining, where it stands in NUMSA, we think that is strategic. The recent strike campaign that we took in relation to electricity, for an example, we partnered with some of the employers, because both NUMSA would have suffered and also the employers would have suffered. So we think that the collective structure, bargaining structure, currently it's still fine for us.
One of the things that struck me was the fact that this is the first strike to hit Mercedes-Benz in close to about is it 20 years or something like that. So it actually has been stable. It has worked, and there is a particular issue that you want to deal with here. But now you're demanding 20%. Inflation is 5-6%.
Now, I think it's important to explain what exactly, beyond the 2 demands that were placed. What happened in Mercedes-Benz is that we agreed now, both the company and the directors of the company, that we shall participate in support of our demands. We shall support our demands in the form of a picketing processes during our lunchtime. One departmental manager undermined that particular agreement between the management and the union, and then workers were going to be disciplined by that particular department. Then the entire workforce took a decision that, look, you can't undermine a collective decision of workers and management, unilateral as an individual you want to impose. We then agreed that, look, this is not correct. We were there, myself and the first deputy president, went to management of Daimler Chrysler and said, let's prioritize this matter.
Right.
They delayed the proceedings up until Friday. They were caught by surprise when members went on a strike. But that's about one thing.
Sure. Only
thing that we are saying as NUMSA is that, look, we have sit down, done lots of research and evaluated the last 3 years. And we believe that the 20%, if you know, the 20% compared to what workers are earning, is something different. In the auto sector, for an example, a current living situation, you've got a worker who will earn 30 rand an hour, for an example. So if you quantify 20% of 30 rand per hour compared to the big profits that these companies are getting, is too much.
I was going to say, actually, do you think they can afford it? But you have just answered that question.
No, they will.
You think they'll be able to afford it?
Yeah,
so do you think this will be resolved and this strike is ended, even though you've been stopped by a court interdict?
We were not stopped by a court interdict. Yes, they used their right in terms of going to court.
Sure.
Now, what we then did as NUMSA, we did not oppose. We said we've got an obligation and the responsibility. Went to our members. We then agreed on the process. For an example, that manager cannot be allowed to do as he wish. We agreed that there's a process that must unfold where the union and management is going to sit down and explain what was the reasons for us to go on a strike, and then we take a recommendation.
So you're hopeful this will be resolved?
No, this is obvious it's going to be resolved. There's a meeting scheduled for the 22nd of May, which is going to deal with the impasse.
Absolutely. Mpumzi Maqungo, National Treasurer of the National Union.